It's like you're sad and you're going to just throw all your burdens on God through song.
Yeah, actually, it is one of the best ways to approach the Lord because we're suffering,
Hmm.
and when we are actually approaching the Lord in a crying mood, like Srila Prabhupada says, like a child crying for his mother,
Hmm.
letting go of whatever we're holding on to, like Draupadi, she was holding on to the sari with one hand and calling out Krishna with the other hand. But when she let go and surrendered and calling out Krishna, that's when the mercy started flowing.
That's when the magic happens. Two hands up in the sky. Krishna, I fully trust you.
That's right.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily spiritual podcast with your host, Raghunath. Kostuba's on vacation today, and it is Q&A. No, it's not Q&A day. It's interview day. We got a special interview going on with someone whom I love. But before we go there, welcome to the show. It's December 22nd. It's episode 1499. That means tomorrow's a very big day. And besides being the Chief's birthday, our regular Zoomer, the Chief, it is episode 1500, where we unmute a bunch of people who join us live on Zoom. We read some letters, and people who give appreciation for adding the Srimad Bhagavatam to their life on a regular basis. That's how you change. You do things on a regular basis. The Bhagavatam itself says, Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya. Regularly hearing the message of the Bhagavatam, it starts to change our consciousness, change the way we see the world, change the way we see ourselves. It starts to decrease the fire of worldliness in the heart and makes one actually deeply joyful. So we're excited for tomorrow's show, super excited. And before we get to our special guest, Miss Mara is here with some holiday announcements.
We're doing Sweet Baby Krishna tonight at 7:30 p.m. on Zoom for our Sage Community Platform supporters.
We're taking people on a journey around Govardhan Hill.
It's so good. I love what we've been reading. And then also, you can still sign up for Sage groups. The registration ends on December 28th. And I just got word that if you'd like to sign up for a second Sage group and there's a slot available that works for you, you're allowed to now sign up for a second Sage group also.
Nice.
Yeah. So sign up today. Go to wisdomofthesages.com/sage groups for that.
Shout out for Italy this summer. It's our 5th one in a row, and our Italy tour in Tuscany. Wisdom of the Sages, lots of kirtan, lots of delicious food, and in the beautiful backdrop of Italy, all held at a Tuscan villa, which has been converted into a Krishna Bhakti temple. So if you want a ashram experience, we got that for you. And we also rented out a whole nother place, like a hotel room, like a hotel, a charming hotel, not like a Super 8 hotel, like a charming Tuscany hotel. So if you're coming with family or friends or kids, it's very kid friendly. All my kids show up. It's a really wonderful trip. Email wotsitaly@gmail.com because it's extremely, space is limited, and we just got a few more rooms. So before waiting any longer, one of my favorite, kirtan's a big part of our, it's the biggest part of our self-realization process, hearing transcendental sounds. And today we have one of my favorite kirtan leaders, Madhava Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Madhava, welcome to the show.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
And you're live in Mauritius today?
That's right. Yeah, that's where I was born. That's where I grew up. That's where I got my first mridanga when I was 5 years old.
5 years old. Okay, so we'll just dive right into it. First, I want to say I think I met you when I first went to India in 1988 or 1990 or something.
I think it was probably 1992.
1992. Okay.
That's
And
right.
I was introduced to the very, very epic group you were part of. Talk about a super band. You know, it's just like we are the world of Kirtan. It's like everybody that you looked up to into Kirtan was together in a super group.
That's
And
right.
and I was a new devotee, and I was thinking, what are they doing? This is a 24-hour Kirtan. How does that work? And it worked. I thought it was one guy doing it all the time or one group of people, but they're changing. They have rotation, and this 24-hour Kirtan is still going on. And you were a big part of that, of course, with the master, Aindra Prabhu, who really, he changed the environment of the Krishna conscious movement, really pushing Kirtan to the forefront of our of what was sometimes getting lost in,
Mm.
in the landscape. The most important thing was sort of getting lost, and he really pushed, this is our main focus, spreading the holy name. And you were a big part of that. And it was very, very inspirational for me as a young devotee. You want to tell me a little bit about your how you got into bhakti? And I mean, you got a mridanga at 5, so there's some type of you grew up in this, and then you sort of came to Vrindavan. You want to share that story, Prabhu, so we can all hear?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I was born on the island of Mauritius, and my parents joined the Hare Krishna movement when I was actually 5 years old. And I was kind of always attracted to drums. I don't know why. It must probably be from my past life, and especially the mridanga. You know, well, there was no mridangas in Mauritius in those days. That was like 5 years old. That was like 90 or 80, 82. And yeah, there was nothing around. So my first mridanga was actually, you know, a tin box, you know, and my father put some holes in there and
Oh,
put a string, and that was my first mridanga.
all
But
right.
then couple of months later, you know, someone brought a mridanga from India. It was a wooden mridanga. And then my parents would take me to the temple, you know, on Sundays, and I would, you know, bang on the mridanga, and the brahmacharis would tell me to stop playing
Ooh.
because that was disturbing the kirtan. And I was just 5 years old. You know, I would just, you know, cry and run to my parents, and they would tell me, yeah, it's okay, you know, you can play next time. But I just had the conviction, you know, I just didn't care, you know. Every time I would go with the same thing. Brahmacharis will tell me, oh, shut up, you know, you're disturbing. But then, you know, when I was 8 years old, you know, I was listening to these old cassettes of Vyasaki Prabhu, Agni Dev, you know, there's, you know, all these gold kirtans, old school. And I would specifically listen to the mridanga playing.
Huh.
Because in those days, you know, we didn't have mridanga teachers, well, especially on a small island like Mauritius. So I would listen to their rhythms, watch and hear, and just try to copy the same things on the mridanga. And somehow or other, you know, with the mercy of Balaram, you know, some rhythms were coming, and I thought, okay, you know, this is what I really need in my life. And I went to a British school studying chemistry and physics. It was quite boring. And it was actually the best boys' school on the island in Mauritius, very prestigious. But it was just not for me. So when I was 18, I left Mauritius. I told my parents, yeah, I want to go to Vrindavan and join the 25 Kirtan.
Wow.
So that's how I left Mauritius. But, you know, I grew up doing Kirtan, you know, even through teenage, going through whatever teenagers go through, you know, parties, you know, whatever else, goes on. But I still kept Kirtan in the center. Kirtan was and is still very sacred to me.
Sure. What was it like to go from private school to Vrindavan circa 1992, which was, that was old Vrindavan. It was simple Vrindavan. There was not, so much media, telephone, cell phones, internet, right to the brahmachari ashram. How was that transition?
I mean, living Mauritius for the first time when I was 18, it was because, come from a protected family, had everything, kind of little spoiled. But, the first day I got to India, it was culture shock.
Sure.
I landed in Delhi, and in those days there were practically no taxis going to Vrindavan. So I would take a bus. I took a bus from Delhi to Mathura, and I had this huge cloth bag, and I didn't know there was no space to keep it in the bus, so I kept it right in the middle of the aisle. And there were like people walking on my bag, and I thought, oh, where did I come? This is like crazy land. And I finally got to Vrindavan after like 4 hours. I mean, going from the north of the island in Mauritius to the south is only 2 hours by car.
This is the longest trip you've ever taken.
So this was like the longest trip, 4 hours. And I was
never
worried.
left the island at this point of your life.
No, never. Not until I was 18.
Now, I'm curious what the island was like in 1990 or 19. Matter of fact, sometimes like these small islands don't develop as quick as the mainland. Was it very similar? First of all, Mauritius is primarily a Hindu island. Is that correct?
Mauritius is mixed.
It's mixed.
It's 50% Hindus, and the rest is, we have Muslims, we have Christians, we have the Franco Mauritians. These are the French that came. It's a mixture of everything.
Okay.
Asians.
Okay. And it's off the coast of Africa, the East Africa, correct?
South Africa, yeah.
Okay.
It's close. It's close to Madagascar.
Okay.
The big island.
So was it very, very simple back then? A simple living, tropical living, very, very Hindu influenced?
Yes, actually simple living, but clean. It's different from India.
Right.
Although there's lots of temples, lots of Shiva temples, but still, it was wonderful growing up here.
Oh, I bet. It's been on my bucket list to go forever, but it's so hard to get to, isn't it? How do you get there?
It's quite a long flight.
I think it's straight south of Europe. Like if you're in Italy or something, go south.
Yeah, you get direct flights from Italy, from France, from England.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And you just said right before you were on the show, you were scuba diving, snorkel diving or something?
Yeah. I mean, my guru is Satchidananda Swami. He said, whenever you're not doing kirtan, do something completely different. So that, when you come back, to your seva, you can really appreciate it very, very nicely. So either gardening or, going for walks, going in the forest in Switzerland. I go for walks in the forest for like 2-3 hours. We live in a village. And
that's right. Because your wife is from Mauritius or Switzerland?
My wife's from Mauritius, but we've been based in Switzerland, living in Switzerland for the past 25 years now.
All right. That's what we should do with our lives. Switzerland and Mauritius. What are we thinking?
Switzerland, Mauritius, India.
What a beautiful triangle you got going.
Yes.
How often do you tour per year?
Well, I tour 11 months of the year.
Wow.
That's full on. That's like
it's quite intense, yeah.
Parivrajacharya.
No. I think more trying to be more the servant of the holy names.
It's beautiful. And can you tell us just a little bit about, especially for people who are new to Bhakti, Kirtan, the importance of Kirtan in what everybody is doing here, what everybody's doing on Zoom. We have about 10,000 people that listen regularly. Why Kirtan is so important, or is Kirtan just part of what we do? Can you just talk about Kirtan and its potency?
Yes. Well, Kirtan is one of Srila Prabhupada's codes. He says, whatever service, whatever seva that we do, if it's not backed up by Harinam Sankirtan, it's zero. So it tells you the importance of Kirtan. It is actually the most important seva because it's the quickest way and fastest way to go back home, back to Godhead, especially in this age that we live in, the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, Kali Yuga. This simple method of meditation, can uplift the mind, consciousness, and make us fall in love with the Lord himself.
Yeah, it really does. I find that even when things are going wrong in my life, if I can just sit in Kirtan for a while, there's a shift in the energy of my mind.
That's right. Yes.
And you travel all over the world when you do this? I mean, is there a place where you stay and do Kirtan continuously? Or people have to just find where you are on tour? Just like if I want to see a concert, I have to go to their website and find out where they are, when are they playing in upstate New York or something like that. How do people find where you tour?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I usually advertise it on my website or Instagram or Facebook. And we go wherever we invited, like yoga studios, open air festivals, Hare Krishna temples, basically wherever there's, people who are receptive towards the chanting.
Super Soul Farm. We had such a great time. We had such a great time with you here 2 years ago. Last time we got held up by a car accident. Fortunately, nobody was hurt, but we didn't have you. But let's do it. 2025. Let's get together. I'll text you. And we'll announce it, and we'll have a Super Soul Madhava party. I mean, we'll have a little festival, a little holy name festival. That would be great. Okay. All right. You're getting a text message right after the show, by the way, about this. Next time you're in New York, we're going to attract you up here. We have a big community that just loves the holy name.
Yeah, I saw that. It's amazing what you're doing.
And when you didn't show up, we were all let down. But the beautiful thing was all the junior varsity stepped in, and it was quite we had a wonderful time, and we all missed you, of course. But like, it's like the holy name that lifts everybody up. It's not like if you're, going to see Led Zeppelin and Led Zeppelin cancels and then, just a bunch of guys get up on stage. I'm sure you'll say this too. We're really here for the holy name and coming together. We're not here to showcase ourselves as Kirtan heroes. We become a Kirtan hero. You become a Kirtan hero because we love the holy name. We love how you do it. But the real devotees, we're actually here for the holy name.
Yes, the holy name is absolute. I mean, it all depends on how you approach the holy name. I mean, the holy name is Krishna himself. And one of the main ingredients is humility, pridelessness. When we chant Krishna's names, we're calling out, my dear Lord, please engage me in your service. And that has to be done very humbly. It's not a stage where we show off our musical talents or beautiful voices. This is not really Kirtan.
Sure. I don't have that problem. I want to say, I was just thinking about this morning because you're always doing Kirtan. I mean, that is your service, Kirtan. Do you ever get depressed? If chanting the holy name lifts the mind up, I was saying, I wonder if he just gets depressed, and then how does he deal with depression? That's my question.
Sometimes yes, I mean, especially when traveling a lot, jet lags and different places. Sometimes I wake up, I don't know which side of the bed I'm on,
Where
you
you
know,
are.
which country I am. It gets a little tiring and sometimes a little depressing also. But the only remedy for our depression is to keep on chanting. You chant more.
Mm. What do you say to a person who suffers from chronic depression, comes on a regular basis?
Keep chanting. You just keep chanting because this chanting, it's not only for the body, but it's for everything. It's for the mind. It's for the soul.
Mm.
So it's a complete balance of everything found in the holy names.
Yeah, even I was thinking, even if you are depressed, you can put that mood of sadness to God, and it's almost like the perfection of depression. It's like you're sad, and you're going to just throw all your burdens on God through song.
Yeah, actually, it is one of the best ways to approach the Lord because we're suffering.
Mm.
And when we are actually approaching the Lord in a crying mood, like Srila Prabhupada says, like a child crying for his mother,
Mm.
letting go of whatever we're holding on to, like Draupadi, she was holding on to the sari with one hand and calling out Krishna with the other hand. But when she let go and surrendered and calling out Krishna, that's when, the mercy started flowing.
That's when the magic happens. Two hands up in the sky. Krishna, I fully trust you.
That's right.
All right. Okay. So it seems like there's a disqualification for kirtan, especially for people who are new to this. I'm going to ask this question, play the devil's advocate. What if you are just not musically inclined? Like you were born playing that mridanga. Some people are born with very beautiful voices. What if you cannot carry a tune if it had a handle on it? And I've seen people who love kirtan, they just cannot clap their hands in rhythm. What are they disqualified from pure devotional service? That's my question.
That's definitely not. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, one of our great acharyas, Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, he used to put brahmacharis who couldn't sing properly to lead the Gora Arati, just to prove the point that we don't need a beautiful voice or musically inclined to be chanting the holy names. It's all about the heart.
Sure.
Chanting is on the heart level. It's an expression of our feelings to the Lord. So whether you have a good voice or not, you just, Aindra Prabhu used to say, open your mouth and chant anyways.
Yeah, it's really true. Sometimes it can be a disqualification if you do sing very well. Have you ever seen that?
It can be very tricky, actually.
Right.
Because then you start thinking you are the doer, you making the kirtan happen, you controlling the kirtan. But it should be the opposite. We are the servant of the holy names. We are dependent on the holy name. And especially the acharyas, where there's the mercy comes from. We cannot chant the holy names by ourselves. We don't have that know-how and the strength. The strength comes from Vaishnavas who have unflinching faith in the chanting of the holy names. So that's why it's so important to, approach Vaishnavas and the holy names in a very humble state of mind.
When I first got into Bhakti, I was asked, by somebody when I'm on stage, a devotee asked me this before I was just getting into Bhakti. And he said, well, you got to make sure when you're on stage, you're there to serve God and not be God. When he said that, it sort of changed the way I saw the whole world. And I said, well, because I thought, well, I am doing this as a service. You told me like this is a good service to do. So I was in this band, Youth of Today, and I was on stage. But then when he said that, I realized actually, and especially the next time I was on stage, I realized this is a God trip I'm on. I'm on a God trip. No matter how much I like to disguise it as this is a good thing, there's a positive thing. This is, the words are positive. I realized like this is about me. How do you now, as a kirtan leader, and you know, when you do kirtans, you're not, sometimes you play for 3 people. Sometimes you're playing these festivals for hundreds, if not thousands of people. How do you do it when you have everybody clapping, everybody smiling, everybody cheering, everybody looking to you? How do you keep it, your consciousness? I'm here as a servant instead of I'm the center. How do you do it? Do you have some method, some technique?
Well, I'm going to talk for me personally. The first thing I do is I close my eyes.
Mm.
I mean, with this style of kirtana that I do, it's very simple. It's more of a meditation. It starts very slow. Mantras are very simple. The melodies are very simple, so that people can follow. I close my eyes first. I pay my respects to my parents, my first guru. You know, my wife, who is always supporting me. I pay respects to my gurus, Aindra Prabhu, you know, who taught me kirtan, Satchidananda Swami, you know, and all these, you know, wonderful Vaishnavas who've encouraged me in my seva. And then, you know, Srila Prabhupada, all the acharyas, you know, asking them for their blessings, you know, to do this seva, to keep me level-headed, you know, humble, you know, not letting things get to my head, thinking that I am the doer. And I just keep my eyes closed, and one mantra at a time. You know, I open my eyes sometimes, you know, just to communicate with a mridang player or, you know, the musicians. Okay, now we're going to do this. But all else, you know, I just zone in. I zone out from, I acknowledge that, you know, there's people, there's devotees, you know, around me. Sometimes, you know, there's, you know, I used to go to this festival in Ukraine, you know, where there's like 10,000 people.
Yeah.
But I keep the same principle. It's not like now there's 10,000 people. Now I got to impress.
Right.
I got to do something different to impress those 10,000 people. But it's the same principle for me. I just close my eyes. I try to go deep and deeper and deeper and deeper by chanting each mantra. You know, and I try to remind myself, you know, by saying, you know, chant a little louder from the heart. You know, I'm saying it to the people, but actually I'm telling myself, this is what you should be doing. Don't forget.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it is it's almost like you're Arjuna on the battlefield, where you have to play a very big role, because as a kirtan leader, in one sense, you're trying to encourage the masses to sing. So in one sense, you're the leader. It's not like you're all chanting the same. You're actually leading it. So you have to almost step up to it, but stepping up not as you're the center. You're almost, you're stepping up. You know, I know from being on stage, it's like, I can't just be there, and I can't be there on stage with my band and close my eyes. You know what I mean? And get meditative. I have to be active and pointing and, you know, jumping and smiling and looking out. But in my mind, it's like a constant war. It's like I'm fighting the Kurukshetra battle right now. And
it is actually beautiful,
right?
Because it makes you conscious.
It makes you super duper conscious. My biggest, as in a punk band, it was a little tricky. And I remember once taking a group to on pilgrimage, and I came in right in time because I was telling everybody it's going to be great, and there's this great kirtan around 6:30 in the evening, and all these great kirtan players from all over the world come, and they sing and they lead, and it's wonderful. It's the 24-hour kirtan. You're going to love them. So I've been gearing them up this entire pilgrimage for this one moment. And I can't remember who was there. I think it was Kirtan Premi, and it was just like one hero after another was sitting there. And when I came in, right when it started, they were like, "Oh, Raghunath's here. We should let Raghunath sing." And I was like, No. We want to hear you guys sing. We're here to see you guys. I really don't want to sing. And they're like, No. Yeah, Raghunath's here. Raghunath should sing. And I tell you, Madhava Prabhu, I was ready to throw up. And it was one of these things where I was like, this is the last thing I want to do in the universe. But you know, when there's like 3 devotees who you look up to and respect, and they're asking you to do it, you got to almost take it as a sign of Krishna. Like, this is what is meant to happen. And there's sometimes humility can be like, I'm going to do less. And then sometimes humility means I have to do more. And
Yes.
you have to step up. And I mean, that's what you do. You're leading 10,000 people in a kirtan, and you can't put yourself like in a little tiny box. You almost have to step into that role in service. And you do it so nicely, Prabhu. You do it so nicely. I didn't throw up, by the way.
Good. Well, for me, stepping up, like you said, you have a style of music that you play where you have to be like really active. For me, my style of kirtan is more of a meditation where I go more internal. So for me, stepping up is really trying to sincerely connect with the mantra. That's for me stepping up, because the Shakti, comes from inside. It's what you have in your heart that's going to come out and go to other people's hearts.
Sure.
So for me, the churning happens in the heart. This is where it's working. While I'm doing kirtan, while I'm chanting, it's not in the mind. The mind is telling you, open your eyes, check out if people are getting bored, or if people are dancing, or that's the mind. But inside, the heart is fighting with the mind. The heart is saying, just be grounded, one mantra at a time, put all your love, put all your feelings, do this for the Lord.
Can I ask you a philosophical question in that regard? Can
Sure.
you get more as a listener of a kirtan if the person doesn't have that adhikari, that if the person doesn't have that qualification who's chanting? So there's a person who's doing it for ego, or for maybe even the wrong reason, can you get more just listening to hear the holy name? Is it the holy name, or is it the intention of the singer that's having the effect on the consciousness?
Well, it's your degree of surrender. The holy name is absolute. The holy name is Krishna. Of course, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also, warns us that, milk touched by the lips of the serpent, is detrimental to our devotional life. But then at the same time, someone who is following the principles, maybe he's got, some desires for, whatever, aim and fame, or, whatever, but he's still sincerely trying to chant, but we take the mantra, and it's how we digest it, how we kind of listen to it sincerely, let it go in, create something wonderful and powerful there in the heart, and come out, convincingly and full of love and bhakti. Then of course, we don't lose anything; we're actually gaining.
Okay, that's good. Good to hear. Good to hear. It's up to us as a listener also to have a clear intention.
Yes.
And what were some? I'm curious to what it was like for you when you first went to Vrindavan. What was it like to be with Aindra Prabhu, who has become he's become legendary since then, after his passing? I thought the 24-hour kirtan was going to almost collapse, and instead it almost got bigger and bigger and bigger. What was it like being there with him from the beginning? What were his good instructions for you? What was like the holy dham like that, and living in the brahmachari ashram there in Vrindavan? You want to share your experience?
Yes. Well, I joined the 24-hour kirtan in January 1992. I just turned 18, and I moved into the ashram. It was winter time, and in Mauritius there's no winters. I mean, winter, and there's summer and winter, but winter is like, 13, 14, 15 degrees. It's just not cold.
We got to go to Mauritius.
And I moved into the ashram. One of my friends in Mauritius gave me a sleeping bag. The zip was broken. I had no mattress, no mat. I slept on the floor in that sleeping bag. It was like freezing cold.
The floor is like marble, and it
No, the
is
floor was just concrete.
concrete.
It was concrete.
Yeah.
And I thought, where did I come? What am I doing? I had a nice bed. I have a nice home. I left all this, to come and sleep on the floor and freeze my butt.
Wow.
So that was my first experience, and taking cold showers, having to like run 50 meters to go to the showers.
Well, it's
take a
not
cold
like
shower.
it's not just a cold shower. It's a cold, like YMCA public, jailhouse shower.
That's right. That's the Brahmachari ashram. Yeah. But then I thought, okay, I'm going to stick it out. I came here, nothing's going to break me. I'm going to do this. And summertimes, it was like really hot. Summertimes in Vrindavan, it gets, I'm going to say it in Celsius, it's like 52 degrees Celsius. That's like very, very hot. I'm not sure how much that in Fahrenheit, but
we're doing the transcription right now, or the metric conversion right now.
Yeah.
I got
but
a
that's
feeling
very
it's
hot.
like
And my seva was to do 6 hours of kirtan every day.
125 degrees. Oh, Linda says 130. Okay, so that's what you would fry an egg at.
I would sit 3 hours.
He's not exaggerating. It is. I've heard that Govardhan Hill is considered one of the hottest places in the world.
Yes. Yeah. It does get 50, 52. And I would do my seva. I would sit down 3 hours. I would get up after 3 hours of my seva, and there would be this puddle of sweat around me. And you couldn't eat much because it was hot. So you would, because all the subjis, all the prasadam was very oily. This
shuts down your digestion when it's that hot.
So I was just eating chapatis and some salad. Salad in India is just cucumbers.
Yeah.
And carrots and some dal. That's all I was eating in the summer, and fruits. Wow. And doing 6 hours of kirtan. But then at one point, I decided to do the night shift, because I didn't like the public so much. I was kind of shy.
Yeah.
And I still don't like the public that much. That's actually one of the other reasons I close my eyes also. Is just
public are horrible. Sick of the public.
So I chose to do the night shift, what we call the graveyard shift. My shift would start at 10 o'clock at night, and it would finish at 4:30 in the morning. So 6.5 hours straight for 1 year. And my last meal in the ashram is like a glass of milk and some puff rice. So that was dinner, and I would start my seva at 10. And around midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, I would hear these growls in my stomach because I wasn't sleeping. I was chanting, and I was getting hungry. And I would look at the clock. Clock would be 1 o'clock in the morning. And I would close my eyes. I would say, just keep on going, So I would close my eyes, try and chant, but my mind was distracted. So I would open my eyes again and look at the clock an hour later, and it would still be 1 o'clock in the morning. It's like time just froze because I was not connecting with the mantras. I was thinking of my stomach. I was thinking of, going to sleep. But then there were those days when I was sincerely trying to chant. My dear Lord, please, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, but I have to keep the holy names going. Give me the strength. Please give me the strength.
So nice.
And those 6.5 hours would just go by so quickly. And the funny thing was, I knew only one melody on the harmonium. So I was stuck with one melody and one mantra for 6.5 hours.
Wow.
That's a challenge when you're 18 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're new to Kirtan and playing Kirtan, it's almost, or even new to Kirtan in general, you're like, because we tend to get bored easily. We always want things to switch up, change it up, change the mantras, change. No, one mantra, one melody, boss. That's all you're gonna get.
That's right. I mean, this gave me the training of, nowadays, I mean, one time I was in Hungary. It was Shivaram Swami's birthday, his Vyas Puja. And it was end of the day, it was 9 p.m. And devotees, his disciples, were giving gifts. And Maharaj told me, just do a small kirtan, and then we'll all go to bed. So I closed my eyes. I started chanting. I opened my eyes. It was like 4:30 in the morning. It was Mangal Arati. We chanted 7.5 hours.
Oh, wow.
One melody. And I was not tired when I was chanting. I lost track of time. The mantra became, it's hard to describe in words. It was just like saturating the heart. It was, and this is what keeps you going. When the heart gets saturated, then you feel that reciprocation from the holy names. Something is actually happening in the heart. A revolution is happening in the heart. And it just keeps you going. You can chant forever. But then when you stop chanting, your mouth is dry.
Wow.
Because you stop chanting, you're thirsty, you start getting body aches. But when you're chanting, it's totally spiritual. You forget everything.
In yoga community, we used to say, yoga starts when you want to come out of the pose. So you're holding warrior two and you're feeling good, you're feeling strong, you're feeling healthy, and all of a sudden you're feeling a little sore. Then you start complaining in the mind, and you're like, oh, come on, teacher, can we switch to the next pose? Everything's burning in my body. That's when yoga starts in one sense, because you have to overcome the sensual experience, overcome the complaining of the mind. And it's like that with Kirtan. Kirtan starts when you want to change it up. But I love this. This is such a good lesson for me. It's like, keep it simple, Raghunath. Keep it very simple and just stay with this melody until, and it's going to agitate you. And you're thinking, well, what are people going to think? And when should I switch? And, this is great, actually, just to keep it simple and just enter into the mantra.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's what you have. Your connection is the connection for other people.
Prabhu, our show is sadly winding down, but that time, can you give us some good takeaways about anything Aindra instructed you in? That's something that was not just valuable for you, but valuable that we could add to our life. Some good personal instructions that are useful for our listeners.
Yes. I mean, there's many, many points, but a couple of things that's coming to my mind right now. There's this saying from Srila Prabhupada. It's very simple, but it's actually quite complex. And Srila Prabhupada tells us, just try to hear ourselves chant sincerely. And it sounds very easy, right? Hear ourselves
right.
chant sincerely.
Just here.
Yeah. But the secret there is that sincerely, this is what's actually challenging, because the mind comes in the way, the heart comes in the way, the anarthas comes in the way, I don't like this melody, I don't like this person chanting, I don't like the music. There's so many things that comes.
Yeah.
Sincerely means you have to uncomplicate everything. Come back to square one, where it's just you and the holy names and the acharyas and your prayers. My dear Lord, please engage me in your service. So that's one thing that I put in practice.
Chanting, for a person new to chanting, there's so many things that come up also, besides just hearing the holy name. A big one for me when I was young was like, what are people thinking of me now that I'm chanting? Are they going to think I'm in this group? I'm in this club? Like, that was a big thing for my ego. Like, I don't want to chant. Then they're going to think like, oh, he's just a Hare Krishna guy too. So for me, there was a lot of like entering into the circle of devotees, in the very beginning of my, and then what to speak of like leading a kirtan. Then another big one was, okay, you believe in this stuff, you're into this stuff, great. Now we're going to go in the streets and chant it. And that was a huge thing for my ego to do, to like sing publicly as a Hare Krishna in 1988 in the streets of New York City. It was like, it was a huge melting of my ego. I had to either stand for Krishna or stand for, and risk this humiliating factor or the shedding of the ego. But it's very, very purifying if you just go out and do it, isn't it?
It is. It is. I mean, I'm going to tell you a little story. And this was in Toronto a few years ago. I was jet lagged, and the same day, I had to lead a kirtan. And one of the devotees gave me a pill. He said, you take this, it's going to help you with your jet lag. So he didn't tell me when. So I took the pill before kirtan, and it was melatonin.
Oh, really?
And I had to lead a 2-hour kirtan. And in the middle of the kirtan, like 30 minutes in, my eyes were like so heavy. And I felt, I needed 2 matchsticks to keep my eyes open. And at the end of the kirtan, I managed to stay awake, finish the kirtan. And for me, it was like, the most horrible kirtan because, I couldn't focus.
Right.
I couldn't connect. And then at the end of the kirtan, they were like, a few people came and said, oh, this was like the best kirtan. Because they were surrendered. That's the point we made before. It's
Sure.
what they're taking in. Sometimes, the kirtan leader can be, somewhere else. But, if the people receiving it, taking it, from the heart, then there's no loss.
That's beautiful. And maybe to wind this up, how about an appreciation for Aindra? For a lot of people that never got to meet him, what was he like? What was he like to you? What was he like publicly? What was he like privately? Maybe just give a little glimpse into his life.
Aindra Prabhu had red hair and red beard. So he was very fiery, very passionate in kirtan, passionate in everything. He was an artist, If any one of you who went to his room, his room was decorated with cow dung, different features and animals. It was just mind-blowing. And he was not really from this world. I mean, the way he dressed and the words that were coming from his mouth, it was all about Krishna all the time. All the time you go to his room, you would expect, you go there for 5 minutes, you'd come out 2 hours later, like full blissed out. He would start reading to you. He would, interact, talk about Krishna's pastimes. And in kirtan, one day I saw him, personally. I was playing Mridanga, and there was this devotee, he was playing kartal and totally spaced out, not chanting. It was one of those days. And Aindra Prabhu looked at him and grabbed his kartals and threw it across the room. I was playing Mridanga, so I watched the kartal going and landing on someone's head. I was like, oh no, this is crazy. And he slapped that devotee, one big slap in the middle of everyone. I mean, that was his nature. But the point was like, in kirtan, you just got to be serious. That was Aindra Prabhu.
Wow.
And
wow.
he was a father, he was a mother, he was a guru, he was everything to me. It was, I mean, it's a big loss, but you know, Vaishnavas never die. You know, they live in their teachings and their chanting. So Aindra Prabhu is always with me.
Yeah, describing his room, he takes you into that room. Half the room was an altar. Like
Yes.
half of the room was an altar. It wasn't a big room.
It was amazing, amazing. It's spiritual. It's the spiritual world.
It was a spiritual world. It was a special time historically, and you had so much special time there. And you're still making special times wherever you go. Thanks for joining us, Prabhu. I appreciate it so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.
And got to get you back up here at Super Soul. And where are you off to next? When can we see you next?
Well, I'm in Dubai next, and then to India. We have this big Kirtan festival in Rishikesh.
In Rishikesh in March.
With Indra Swami. Last year was 3 weeks. This year's going to be 5 weeks, from the 20th of Feb till the 25th of March.
All right, we're going to see if we can join you. Thank you, Prabhu, for joining us. We all love you, appreciate what you do. Keep doing what you're doing.
Guys.
You're lifting us higher and higher. Thanks to everybody for joining us today. Tomorrow's episode 1500. This was a great way to enter into it. 1500 episodes of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We're nice. And so you get inspired by people's inspiration. So that tomorrow's going to be an inspiration show for everybody and how it's affected them. I'm going to tell my story, how it's affected me. I went through some crazy times through 2020 and on. And so I'm definitely going to share my experience with the Bhagavatam. I like to say, like, I'm doing this podcast. I'm doing this podcast for me. I'm doing Sweet Baby Krishna tonight for me, not for you. The public is horrible. That's one of my takeaways. The public is horrible. We know that. So we got to take care of ourselves in the most wonderful way possible. Here in chanting the holy name here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Thanks for everybody who's dedicated, listens to us on Zoom every day. And thanks to all the others out there who listen on all the podcast platforms. If you're listening on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, etc. Helps our algorithms. If you haven't got Punk to Monk, the book, get it for a friend. If you did get it, read a review on Amazon, or double it. Thanks, everybody. Beautiful day, every beautiful day. Madhava Brew. Howdy, Bo.